welcome. You're watching the newsroom on NewsX World. I'm Kriti Mehta. In this show, I'm going to give you a roundup of all the top stories that took place today along with my colleagues from the newsroom. To start with, there's some breaking news now coming in regard to US President Donald Trump, who's written to Hungary's Norway's leader, beg your pardon, to tell him why there are not really many options left with him. In fact, let's take you through the details of this exchange. Viewers, a fresh release of the text messages or the conversation between the two leaders, US President Donald Trump and Norway's Prime Minister, has been released. And according to this message, Trump says that Norway's Prime Minister, that not being given the Nobel Peace Prize means he no longer has an obligation to think purely of peace. This is coming as Greenland's Prime Minister says we will not let ourselves be pressured. As the US President says, he will impose tariffs on countries that oppose his plan to take over the island. Jen Frederick Nielsen says Greenland has the right to make its own decision, which is the latest statement from US, including threats of tariffs, do not change that line. Earlier, reminding you viewers, Keir Starmer had said that Trump's plan to impose tariffs on the UK and other countries were completely wrong. Now, as far as the message that's exchanged between the Norwegian Prime Minister and Donald Trump, it goes on to say, Dear Jonas, considering your country decided not to give me the Nobel Peace Prize for having stopped 8 wars plus, I no longer feel an obligation to think purely of peace, although it will always be prominent, but can now think about what is good and proper for the United States of America. Denmark cannot protect that land from Russia or China. And why do they have a quote-unquote right of ownership anyway? There are no written documents. It's only that a boat landed there hundreds of years ago, but we had boats landing there also. I have done more for NATO than any other person since its founding, and now NATO should do something for the United States. The world is not secure unless we have complete and total control of Greenland. Thank you, President Donald J. Trump. In response to this message, Norway's leader has written, Dear Mr. President, dear Donald, on the contact across the Atlantic, on Greenland, Gaza and Ukraine, and your tariff announcement yesterday. You know our position on these issues, but we believe that we should all work to take this down and de-escalate. So much is happening around us where we need to stand together. We are proposing a call with you later today with both of you, or separately. Give us a hint of what you prefer. So this was the message that had gone from Jonas Store. And then in response to this message, Trump said that he no longer feels obligated to think purely of peace because he had not been offered the Nobel Peace Prize for, as he believes, ending 8+ wars. Meanwhile, the leader had also responded to say that the Nobel Peace Committee or the Nobel Prize Committee is an independent authority, and the leadership of Norway, or its Prime Minister really, has no say whatsoever in that decision. All right, viewers, with that, we are now going to move on. Now, as far as the question of Greenland is concerned, European leaders are coming together and saying that they are in a position to react if US President Donald Trump goes on with his tariff threat. Europe wants to avoid any escalation with the US over Greenland is the statement that came out from Germany's Chancellor Friedrich Merz. European leaders are closing ranks now in response to Trump's threat of additional tariffs to force the acquisition of Greenland. And Chancellor Merz said Europe would hit back if necessary. Let's remind you viewers, earlier today, British Prime Minister Keir Starmer had also denounced Trump's escalation as completely wrong and vowed to find a pragmatic, sensible, sustained solution to this serious crisis. He said a tariff war is in nobody's interest and the whole country needs to pull together. As far as statements from the Dutch finance minister have come out, he said that US tariff threat is unnecessary and irresponsible. The Netherlands, viewers, is among the 8 countries that could be targeted by an additional 10% levy on exports to the US. More statements have also come out from different leaders of the world. Let's tell you what the French foreign minister said. He said that the logic of domination is doomed to failure. Those who predict the demise of European civilization should first question their own weakness, their own fragility, and the risk of own demise. France and Germany, which were among the leading nations to form the European Union, have displayed unity in the face of Trump's pressure to acquire Greenland. Germany's Vice Chancellor and Finance Minister Lars Klingbeil and French Economy and Finance Minister Roland Lescure presented a united front in response to US threats to impose tariffs on several European countries, and they said that we are in agreement as they held a joint press conference. A Czech Prime Minister also spoke. He said foreign policy is about diplomacy, not social media posts. Andrej Babi, the new Prime Minister of the Czech Republic, sent a brief message of support to Greenland amid Donald Trump's tariff threat. He said, in fact, wrote on social media platform X that Greenland is a Danish autonomous territory, and there's no doubt about that, but we will support dialogue, not declaration. Foreign policy is about diplomacy, not about who posts the strongest statement on social media. All right, at this point, I would now want to invite my colleague Marisha Barve from the newsroom. Marisha, where do you think see this escalation going between the United States and the European Union leaders? What we are seeing, of course, is that European Union leaders have come together in the face of this pressure from Donald Trump. But is this really enough to stop a trade war? And who is going to be the bigger loser?
Yes, well, Kriti, like you very detailedly mentioned, first, for more understanding for you and our viewers about the background and what is this escalation when it comes to Greenland and Trump's wants when it comes to acquiring Greenland. Now, this has escalated on another level altogether. At this point, Trump's acquisition that he makes very clear that he wants control of Greenland is coming with intense tensions globally. It is drawing and triggering a trade war and is serving a severe diplomatic tension with European allies, which affects the whole global trade cycle. Now, let's look at it and break it a little down with regards to what are the recent developments that have come about. Now, Trump has given an ultimatum, and what is the ultimatum? It's the tariff. He has threatened, in fact, the European allies that stand in solidarity with Greenland, saying that he is going to threaten them with more tariffs in the coming future. Now, President Trump has linked his bid for Greenland to a perceived slight over with the Nobel Peace Prize, like you mentioned, stating he no longer feels an obligation to think purely of peace. He has announced 10% tariff on Denmark, the UK, France, Germany, Norway, Sweden and Finland starting from the 1st of February 2026, which will rise to around 25% by June if a complete and total purchase of Greenland is not negotiated. Let's look at the military posturing of this whole escalation. Now, Denmark has reinforced its joint Arctic command with battle-ready troops and launched Operation Arctic Endurance alongside 8 NATO allies to defend the territory. Now, Trump has ordered the Joint Special Operation Command to prepare for a possible invasion despite internal resistance from the US Joint Chiefs of Staff, which shows that even the administration is not on the same page as Trump's decision when it comes to the military posturing of this whole scenario. But what has been striking are the global reactions that Trump's acquisition and Trump's bid is getting. Now, he's talking about threatening the European allies or the EU with more tariffs. Now, Greenland and Denmark have stood in solidarity throughout. Many of them, even Greenlanders, have said that Greenland is not in fact for sale, which means that under no circumstance are they adhering to Trump's acquisition bid of Greenland. Now, Greenland's Prime Minister Jens Frederik Nielsen has stated that Greenland chooses Denmark and calls for an end to fantasies of annexation. These are bold words coming in from the leaders of Denmark and specifically Greenland's Prime Minister Nielsen. Now, Denmark has declared that any military threat to Greenland is a threat to Danish sovereignty and will be met with immediate force. But where does the European Union stand in the midst of all of this? The EU leaders held an emergency meeting in Brussels describing the US tariff threats as blackmail. France and Germany have urged the use of EU's anti-coercion instrument to retaliate against US trade measures. You touched upon Keir Starmer's and the UK's role in the midst of these tensions, and from where Prime Minister Keir Starmer stands, he's called the tariff threats completely wrong and urged the return to calm discussion to avoid a full circle and a full-scale trade war. Global superpowers like Russia and China are also watching closely. Russia is reportedly watching the growing US-EU rift with glee, but remains concerned about the shifting security dynamics in the Arctic in itself, while China has expressed concern that US claims are a pretext for selfish gains. This I quote. Now, let's talk about the strategic and environmental context with why Trump is leading to acquire, why he wants to catch hold of Greenland. And that is because Greenland contains a vast deposit of lithium, cobalt, and graphite, critical for defense and green technology, which the US seeks to take control of to reduce their dependency on China. What is at risk is also NATO. Analysts and EU officials warned that US attempt to seize the territory of a fellow NATO member could effectively end an alliance. So at this point, globally, almost all nations feel threatened. The EU, the European nations feel threatened. The members part of the NATO feel threatened due to this escalation and due to this move by Trump. So where we stand at right now with regards to the US's acquisition of taking over or their bid for Greenland is seen as a very threatening situation globally. It has sparked an immense effect on trade markets. It has held a lot of decisions are at stake with regards to trade when it comes to this whole acquisition. So yes, Kriti, the future of Greenland's sovereignty is at stake, and not only with Greenland, Denmark stands in solidarity with Greenland as both of them safeguard their sovereignty. So yes, Kriti, over to you.
Sure. Thanks, Marisha, very much for filling in our viewers with those details. And with that, we are now going to proceed to cover some news on the board of peace for Gaza's reconstruction. There are, in fact, some breaking news updates that are coming in. Like many countries, France has also received the invitation to be a member of Trump's Board of Peace. But what is striking here that as per sources, French President Emmanuel Macron is saying that he may not be able to respond favorably to this invitation. Like many countries, France was invited to join the Board of Peace and is examining together with its partners the proposed legal framework. But as per the French presidency sources, at this stage, it did not intend to respond favorably. The charter goes beyond the sole framework of Gaza. It raises major issues, in particular regarding respect for the principles and the structure of the United Nations, which cannot under any circumstances be called into question. France remains fully committed to a ceasefire in Gaza and to a credible political horizon for Palestinians and Israelis. It will continue to uphold effective multilateralism. This, in fact, is the first country to have responded in a tone that's not explicitly positive as far as joining Trump's Board of Peace is concerned. But to tell you viewers, some 60 countries have been invited to join this Board of Peace for Gaza, and Kremlin has also said that Putin has also been invited to join Trump's Gaza Peace of Board of Peace, as were countries like India and Pakistan. Putin, however, has showed no signs of ending Ukraine war and claimed that it adds weight to accusation that Trump favors the Russian president. Kremlin has announced that Putin was invited to join the Board of Peace, but it also is reviewing those invitations that have been reached or sent to these countries. Marsha, please do join us and give our viewers a brief of the countries that have been receiving these invitations, which are the countries that have accepted them. And I believe France is the only country that has now said that it may not be able to respond favorably at this point in time. But which are the other countries that are still mulling over the invitation?
Yes, well, Kriti, to give our viewers a little bit more understanding about why the Board of Peace, the Gaza Board of Peace has come about, is due to finally we are on our way, globally we are on our way to finally bring reconstruction, finally bring aid, finally help nullify or at least attempt to nullify the destruction and the immense damage that has been caused on the civilization, the infrastructure, the resources in Gaza. Now, around 2 years of intense war between Israel and Gaza has caused immense destruction within the Gaza Strip, and now finally we see a certain move ahead when it comes to aid, when it comes to reconstruction of the Gaza Strip. Now, the solution right now to that, where globally we're leaving into, is the Gaza Board of Peace, which will look into the reconstruction of the Gaza Strip. Now, let's look at a few more nations, a few more global powers that have been invited to be a part of the Gaza Peace Board, and a few of them starting off with India. Now, President Donald Trump has formally invited Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi to join the board as a founding member. India still has not officially responded, according to a few reports. The invitation also, like you touched upon, extends to the Kremlin, extends to Russia, where Trump has also formally invited Vladimir Putin to join the board. As of Putin's end, as of the Kremlin's end, they are still currently clarifying nuances on the offer. Now, a draft charter revealed that while nations can join for free for 3 years, a $1 billion contribution is required for permanent membership. Now, these funds are reportedly designated for Gaza's reconstruction. But what plays a major role for global nations, for nations across the world to be a part of this, are the rising tensions with regards to Israel. Now, Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, which is Israel's Prime Minister, he has expressed rare public opposition to the composition of Gaza's executive board, stating its makeup, which includes officials from Turkey and Qatar, was not coordinated with Israel and contradicts its possibility. What we see here, Kriti, is diplomacy at its peak. It's where nations are either choosing to be a part of the board or take a diplomatic stance on it, and maybe not or decline the invitation that has been extended. But let's talk about the structure and leadership of the Board of Peace that has been instated for Gaza. Now, the board operates under three-tier governance modeled, which will be led by US President Trump as its chairman. Now, it will be chaired by Trump, and the invitation has been sent to roughly 60 world leaders. Now, the executive board will be a strategic group which includes Marco Rubio, Steve Witkoff, Jared Kushner, Tony Blair, Ajay Banga, who works for the World Bank, and Mark Rowan. These are key figures who will be in charge or who are part of the US administration or global relief initiatives, which will be pooling in together as a team to put this board together. Now, let's talk about the Gaza Executive Board. Like I mentioned before, this is an on-the-ground body featuring regional representatives from Turkey, Qatar, Egypt, and the UAE, alongside UN coordinator. So all of these nations are going to be pooling in together to actually go into the Gaza Strip and help reconstruct the civilization. Now, let's talk about the operational mandate. There is a transition governance that is seen, overseeing the National Committee for the Administration of Gaza, which is a Palestinian technocratic committee, which is being led by Dr. Ali Sha'at, that handles the day-to-day municipal services. The security is something that has been on talks, deploying an international stabilization force, which is now termed as the ISF, is commanded by the US Major General Jasper Jeffers to enforce demilitarization and secure border areas. This is in fact to reduce or to suppress any level of violence that can break out. But the reconstruction in itself, we're mobilizing large-scale investments to rebuild Gaza's infrastructure, which is roughly 80% destroyed. Now, confirmed and pending members who have accepted as such are Hungary, Canada, Vietnam, Argentina, and Albania. And the ones who are invited are India, Russia, UK, Turkey, Egypt, Jordan, Pakistan, and Australia. Now, in the midst of all of this, of all of these nations that are being summoned, what is the goal? The goal is that the board aims to rebuild Gaza's infrastructure, which I mentioned before, which over 80% is estimated to be destroyed. Now, as of today, where we stand at with regards to this is the fact that Gaza has been in shambles for a long time now, and now we finally see a effort into the rebuilding of it. Now, only time will tell, only policies would, national policies or diplomatic policies will give us more insight into which nations actually agree and accept the invitation to join the board, and those who decline, what are the repercussions ahead, what are the pros of it, what are the cons of it, will soon be revealed in the coming future as the board finally takes charge and work and reconstruction goes on in full scale. So yes, Kriti, this is a little bit about the Board of Peace in Gaza.
Sure, Marisha, thanks again. Viewers, let's now move on and bring you some tragic news from Spain, where we have been telling our viewers that 39 people and over were killed and over 120 were injured after two moving trains collided in the southern part of the country. Spain's Prime Minister has now vowed a transparent probe after the high-speed train crash killed 39 people. Prime Minister Pedro Sanchez promised a thorough and absolutely transparent investigation into the crash, declaring 3 days of mourning. The crash near Ademuz in the province of Cordoba happened when a train derailed and jumped onto the track in the opposite direction and slammed into an incoming train. Videos are showing on social media how rescuers pulling passengers from twisted carriages lying on their sides. Let's invite my colleague Marisha into the discussion here. Marisha, please do go on to tell us what details we're picking up.
Yes, well, what a catastrophic incident to mention, firstly. A lot of horrifying visuals have surfaced with regards to the accident and the train collision that has taken place in the Ademuz region in southern Spanish province. Now, at least 39 people, like you mentioned, at least 39 people were killed, their lives were claimed, and over 120 people were injured. And this marks Spain's deadliest rail disaster since 2013. Now, the accident involved two high-speed trains traveling in opposite directions on a straight stretch of track. Now, traveling from the city of Malaga to Madrid with approximately 300 passengers, the rear carriage of this train derailed at approximately 7:45 p.m. CET that evaded the adjacent track. Now, traveling from Madrid with around 100 passengers furthermore in the journey, it struck the derailed aero carriages, which are part of the train, at high speed, causing the first two carriages to plummet down a 4-meter embankment. Now, this is technically how how reports have said that the accident took place. But what is more disturbing is the casualties that have been reported, and it is fatal in fact. At least 39 were confirmed dead, including the driver of the train. And when it comes to the injuries, approximately 122 people were treated for injuries, with 12 adults and 1 child in intensive care as of today, as of January 19th. But what has been a tougher part was the identification of the victims. Now, authorities are using DNA analysis to identify victims due to extreme violence of the impact. But as we speak, investigation and possible causes of the incident are underway, where the Spanish Transport Minister Oscar Puente described the accident as extremely strange because it occurred on a straight section of the track and has been renovated very recently in May 2025. What has been at question is the speed. The preliminary data suggests that both trains were well within the 250 km/h speed limit. The Aero train, in fact, was traveling at 110 km/h, and the Renfe train was traveling at a 205 km/h speed at the time of the crash. What investigation, at least for now, suggests is a technical failure. Investigation found a broken joint, which is also called as a fish plate of a trail, which is on the rails, which showed signs of long-standing wear. Was there a certain level of prior warning? Well, a train drivers union had reportedly warned the infrastructure operator about this wear and tear situation on the tracks, specifically in this area. But let's talk about the aftermath and the response of how Spain is receiving this incident. Now, like you mentioned, Prime Minister Pedro Sanchez declared a 3-day mourning period and cancelled his trips to the World Economic Forum in Davos to visit the site. Now, the high-speed rail services between Madrid and Andalusia were suspended through at least today to this week. Now, support services and assistance centers for relatives have been established at major stations, including Madrid, Seville, and Malaga. Yes,
Marisha,
Kriti,
I'm
this
sorry,
is
I'll have
what
to
has
interrupt
been-
you there. We are unfortunately, of course, running short on time. But thanks for all those details as far as the Spanish train accident is concerned. We are going to continue to provide our viewers with further updates as and when they come. For now, viewers, it's a wrap on this episode of the Newsroom. Thanks for watching NewsX World for all breaking news and updates from around the world.